Hello, viewer number 1. What you're about to see is an absolute spectacle. Whenever possible, be ready to leave here different. You're watching Perception Culture. Congratulations! You are lucky enough to have entered a cinema to watch Jordan Peele's 2022 film Node. What happens next? Perhaps you welcome gravity and sink into your seat. Maybe you relax the space between your eyebrows, and even soften your gaze onto the dark void in front of you in anticipation. You embrace the sensation of surrendering to the guidance of your chosen filmmaker. Do you let the experience swallow you whole?
Did you know that the very first assembly of photographs in sequential order to create a motion picture was a 2-second clip of a black man on a horse? Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Look it up.
Vision. You might have it. You may lose it. Filmmakers certainly need it. But what is it exactly?
Right now, at this very moment, as you watch these light rays striking the magnified eye, similar tiny beams of light are entering your own eyes. Like the diaphragm of a camera, the iris regulates the amount of light and sharpens the image upon the retina. And it's by our eyes that we are able to gain a great part of our knowledge. Nature has located the eye close to the brain so that its messages may arrive there quickly. It is well for us to know that our eyes are one of our greatest gifts of nature and are indeed worthy of our constant care and protection.
In higher organisms, the optical system of the eye collects light from its surrounding environment in order to form an image that is converted into electrical signals. These signals are then transmitted to the visual cortex and other areas of the brain through complex neural pathways. This provides organisms with the faculty of vision and gives the owner of the eye a sensory way to form memories and an understanding of the world that they are witnessing in the present moment. With the invention of the camera in the 19th century, humans gained a new way to approach this process. Similarly to the eye, a camera is an optical instrument that captures images through the regulation of light through lenses. No longer was the experience of witnessing and processing restricted to the here and now, but moments could be captured and stored chemically on light-sensitive material such as photographic film and later shared with others. Further development of camera technology enabled humans to capture video by sequencing multiple images as a way to mimic motion. An early example of this is the animated clip of Muybridge's chronophotographical work published in 1887 that depicts a black jockey riding a horse that is also used in the narrative of Node. This type of technology has played a pivotal role not only in the progression of entertainment, visual arts, and media, but also in scientific research and surveillance. In Node, characters that best illustrate the dynamics that humans have with camera technology are Angel and Antlers Halst. Angel, who works as a tech salesman in a large electronics retailer, is well aware of the capabilities of camera surveillance and is critical about how this technology is being used by existing power structures. Halst, a renowned cinematographer, treads the line between using cameras for art, spiritual practice, and commercial use. By examining these two characters, we can see that cameras are tools that may be used for many different reasons, but it also illuminates a key factor to understand. A camera is unable to be impartial as it is always set up by someone. The image a camera captures always serves a purpose. As Susan Sontag writes in the 2003 essay regarding the pain of others, it is always the image that someone chose. To photograph is to frame, and to frame is to exclude. A picture paints 1,000 words. Perhaps you have heard this phrase, but let's look further. How does the meaning of an image change in relation to another image? Can this meaning be manipulated? And who controls the impact images have on a spectator? To explore these questions, let's start by looking at the Kuleshov effect. Lev Kuleshov, a Russian film theorist, combined a single image of a man with 3 different images and showed that each combination provoked a different understanding from the spectator. When the image of the man was combined with a bowl of soup, he was hungry. When combined with a picture of a woman, he was infatuated with her, and when with a child in a coffin, he was sad. This indeed shows how an image can have different meaning depending on its relationship to the images that accompany it, but this is also an example of how environmental conditioning alters our perception. It is only because the viewer's brain has learned systems that associate the symbols of food with hunger, women with captivation, and death with sadness that those emotions were assigned to the image of the man by the spectator. Photographs objectify, they turn an event or person into something that can be possessed. Captured footage is not a living thing, it does not have a force of its own. We view characters in a film as real people and yet they only exist in the context of the film. Once the projection of the film ends, so do the characters. They do not exist outside of it. Their story is made up of images and symbols that the person in control of the camera has selected in order to point the spectator to certain thoughts, feelings, and emotions. This practice instructs us to explore our reactions to seen images in the present moment and reveals something about the cognitive models of a given time. Luke Hockley writes in his book Somatic Cinema, "Cinema acts as a container for psychological change. It both causes a reaction and contains that reaction. In this sense, cinema is a psychological catalyst. While it remains unchanged, the viewer is altered. The difference between watching a film and experiencing a film is that to experience suggests that an awareness is brought to the whole of the cinematic process, as the act of being in the cinema is related via all the senses." A lot of labor goes into the existence of cinema. A filmmaker must frame a story and fund a production with cast and crew. A film theater must be built and maintained in order to screen the film. A viewer must set an intention, travel to a theater, have the money to pay for a ticket, and open oneself up to a new experience. Here, then, are a set of ways in which cinema occupies a liminal space. It is the shore between the ocean of the collective and the land of the individual. It sits between the commercial imperative of business and the illumination of inner life. It encapsulates what we know about ourselves and our culture and also what we have yet to comprehend about our social life and our individual psyches. Colin McGinn further expands on the role of cinema in The Power of the Movies, how screen and mind interact. If spiritual bodies, analogous to angels, confront us on the screen, then is watching a movie anything like a religious experience? A dark and gloomy interior, a wall blazing with light, tales of good and evil, reigning gods, a trance-like state, music, an audience. What am I talking about? A church or a movie theater?
A part of it was I'm gonna make something that people have to see, and then while I was making it, I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with that. Why do we have to see anything? Why is it that why do we rubberneck at an accident? Why do we have to open our social media and see the worst thing in the world every morning? It's something in human nature. And so I felt like, yes, I want people to come out and see my movie. I want to give them an escape. But I can't ignore the fact that there's something intrinsically insidious about that. And when you have that duality, that's a perfect kind of thing for me to tackle, because I love that. I love duality.
We are being surveilled by an alien species I call the viewers. And though they have yet to emerge from their ship, I believe they trust me. If they didn't, I don't think any of us would be here right now.
You know, with Get Out, it started with this notion of I have to entertain even if I have no money to do it. And so it has to be about the journey that I'm taking the audience on. that's kind of become, I think, what people expect from my movies. And so it's been very important to preserve that sense of mystery and that sense that you don't know what you're going to get, but that's the point.
A quick search in our systems indicates that a spectacle is an unusual, notable, or entertaining public display that is visually striking. The word is derived from the Latin word spectaculum, which means public show. So, a spectacle grabs the attention of the human eye and needs to be accessible for viewing by many. However, this only explains how to recognize a spectacle and not what it itself is. Perhaps this is because a spectacle can take on any form. A great representation of this mutability in Nope is Jean Jacket, a cloud, an eye, a flying saucer, a jellyfish. Any of these words might have been used by spectators to describe Jean Jacket, had they been lucky enough to survive such an encounter, and these descriptions would all be partially both true and false. Is Jean Jacket a wild animal or monster, an angel or alien? What if it's just an eating machine? Who is to say? And who will believe the existence of such a creature anyway without some evidence?
I wouldn't say Jean Jacket's the villain. Jean Jacket is ultimately a Trojan horse, filled with a lot of ideas. The real villain is humanity's instinct to think they can put a party hat on a wild animal.
You don't turn your back on a bear. You don't wear red around the boards like that. You don't look at it unless you want its attention.
I will cast abominable filth at you, make you vile, and make you a spectacle. Peele starts the movie with this biblical quotation. This points to the notion that a spectacle is only a spectacle with an audience, and the audience will not remain untouched by their involvement. We can see this from the Haywood farm being covered in the blood and metal debris left over from Jean Jacket's victims.
We talk about spectacles, it becomes abundantly clear that all the themes and characters in this movie interact or represent the media in some way. And obviously the nucleus of the media I'm sort of examining here is Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And the selling of dreams, the selling of nightmares, the selling of illusion.
In order to sell illusion, you need illusionists and an audience unaware of their existence. And the Hollywood movie industry is built on the backs of thousands of workers who will remain largely unknown by the spectators who consume the fruits of their labor. The Haywood family business reveals the difficulties of making a living in this industry. Even with decades of experience and committed hours of work, they may now be easily replaced by computer-generated special effects produced by mostly ununionized workers, simply because it is cheaper and quicker for the studios to get audiences into theaters this way. But what if you're not the one creating or funding the illusions? Who has the right to exploit spectacle? And how does the possibility of profit change our relationship with produced images?
Spectacle is an interesting idea, especially if you are the spectacle itself. Maybe it feels like you're connecting, but perhaps you're just being consumed. We all want it for some reason, right? We all watch a car crash, unfortunately. We all watch something on fire. And in some way, are we connecting through that shared experience? But then, what happens to the spectacle itself?
The character of Jupe shows us how one can be both traumatized by being part of a spectacle and also exploit a spectacle. As a young child actor, Jupe witnessed a horrific incident on the set of a sitcom he was working on. Gordy, a chimpanzee the sitcom was structured around, gets startled and attacks the cast, killing some and injuring others before being shot by the police. In her previously mentioned essay, Susan Sontag writes, "New demands are made on reality in the era of cameras. The real thing may not be fearsome enough, and therefore needs to be enhanced, or reenacted more convincingly." As an adult, Jupe sells tickets to see his collection of memorabilia related to the incident that is hidden in a secret room accessible from his office. Traumatized by the event, Jupe has developed a script he performs to his customers and tells Emerald and OJ about his experience by describing a SNL sketch based on the incident instead of giving his first-hand account.
I think sometimes it's easier for you to be the projection everybody wants you to be than it is for you to resist and fight that every day.
Jupe's close encounter and connection with Gordy also gave him the sense that he can tame Jean Jacket. Since the death of Otis Haywood Sr., he has been buying horses from OJ for cheap with the pretext of selling them back to him later. Instead, he has been feeding the horses to Jean Jacket as a way to attract an audience to his Western theme park, Jupiter's claim. Unfortunately, his business plan does not take into consideration Jean Jacket's wild nature, and he and his family end up consumed by the mysterious creature.
Because the word's getting out. And when it does, you know people gonna come and do what they always do. Try and take it all for themselves.
Jupe understood the value of an attraction such as Jean Jacket. Before each feeding, he recounts the story of Jean Jacket's discovery and asks his spectators to not take any pictures or videos during the show. After all, if images and video were to get out, others too would want to profit from the spectacle. But is that a valid reason to keep something hidden if it could lead to the death of many innocent people? Given the chance, would you prioritize your own financial survival over the safety of others?
Any time that we're going to make money off of the human need to see something crazy, that to me is what I call spectacleization. And I'm a guilty party. You're a guilty party. We kind of all are in some ways, whatever side we're all on it, and that's kind of the point.
What we're doing is important, right? Like, what we document, it's gonna do some good, huh? I mean, besides the money and fucking fame, like, we can save some lives. Fuck, we can even save Earth, right?
Boom. Power now. See?
Wow. Stop.
This episode is brought to you by a screen.
Oh, how I love when you spend hours upon hours gazing into me every day. When you're not around, I feel empty. Look at me, look at me. I'll show you whatever you want to see.
To continue filling your screen, subscribe to Perception Culture.
I mean, we really put on a show? Well, you know they gotta bring us back for the sequel.
Uh-huh.
At the start of this episode, we looked at the functions of the eye, but what happens after the eye has delivered its information to the brain? Well, neuroscientists are finding that we might have been looking at this whole process the wrong way around. In their paper See It With Feeling, Affective Predictions During Object Perception, Barrett and Barwright, the affective prediction hypothesis implies that responses signaling an object's salience, relevance or value do not occur as a separate step after the object is identified. Instead, affective responses support vision from the very moment that visual stimulation begins. So, the non-conscious parts of the brain come up with numerous predictions of what information the eye might pick up even before the information comes into conscious sight. Brains predict, assess, and compare the information to previous references until finding a clear classification based on previously learned understandings and habits of thinking. The affective prediction hypothesis also explains why it is possible for people to watch the same film and find completely different meanings. As a human goes through their daily life, they are constantly training their brain to predict and interpret information in a fashion specific to their learned experience. For instance, If two people, an optimist and a pessimist, were to watch the ambiguous ending of Nope, the optimist might believe that OJ survived Jean Jacket's attack and the pessimist might believe that he didn't because of how Peele framed the last time we see him in the movie. But might this theory of cognition also shed light on why Nope has sparked such differing reactions from its audience?
The moment pictures could move, we had skin in the game.
With Nope, Peele combines elements from horror, mystery, and sci-fi movie genres, referencing Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Jaws, and Jurassic Park as major influences when creating the film. These movies were hugely successful and are considered fan favorites to this day, so shared narrative elements should be familiar to audiences. But Peele challenges these conventions by adding another layer, showing black characters in the Western aesthetic. It is no secret that Hollywood executives have historically favored certain narratives over others, especially in the Western genre, during what is sometimes referred to as the Golden Age of Westerns during the 1940s to the 1960s. Most storylines featured a white male protagonist's attempts to bring justice and freedom to the American West through rugged individualism. Because of this, Native Americans and other peoples were often depicted as an enemy or opponent and not the heroes of the story. But could there be more to this era than meets the eye? Peele might have an answer for us. On the wall of the Haywood Ranch you might notice a poster for the 1972 film Buck and the Preacher, directed by Sidney Poitier. It was one of the first films by an African-American director that broke Hollywood Western conventions by showing the struggles of Black Americans in the 1860s. It is not only notable for casting black actors but also for its exploration of the relationship between Native Americans and African Americans after the American Civil War. Unfortunately, the film wasn't a huge box office success, but contrasting the theory of predictive cognition with the average narrative structure of a Hollywood Western might reveal why. It is always the image that someone chose. To photograph is to frame, and to frame is to exclude. Remember this quotation? By framing the Western narrative mainly through the point of view of a male protagonist of European descent, spectators are trained to be more inclined to see other narratives as failing to fulfill their expectations. But is there a way to challenge this cycle? Well, data analyzed by Dr. Darnell Hunt and Dr. Ana Cristina Ramon in the Hollywood Diversity Report for 2022 shows that this might already be happening. In the top films of 2021, people of color accounted for 38.9% of lead characters, compared to 10.5% in 2011. While only 3 out of 10 directors are people of color, data shows that directors of color are much more likely to include characters who are minorities or female in their movies than that of their white male counterparts.
So much of my work obviously is about black horror and putting black faces in my favorite genre, in genres in ways I haven't seen. And the turmoil with which the world was in when I wrote this is in this movie, but it also was a transformative for me because it became very important to represent black joy and to represent black adventure and black aspiration and black excellence in it as well, and human nature overcoming its obstacles.
Whether the photograph is understood as a naive object or the work of an experienced artificer, its meaning, and the viewer's response, depends on how the picture is identified or misidentified, that is, on words. An important aspect of Nope's narrative is centered around Muybridge's clip of a black jockey riding a horse. We know that the name of the galloping horse in this clip is Annie G. However, the identity of the jockey remains a mystery to this day. More than anything, this reveals the social values and cognitive models of those with access to camera technology back in the 1880s, similarly to what we were examining earlier with Hollywood Westerns. David Goldstein surely writes in Black Cowboys in the American West, an historiographical review of the estimated 35,000 cowboys on the Western American frontier during the second half of the 19th century. Probably several thousand were black, although figures offered by several historians must be regarded as no more than conjectures. A potentially high percentage of blacks in the cattle business is remarkable, especially considering that in both 1860 and 1910 they constituted less than 1% of the West's population. Biographies and autobiographies of black cowboys appeared as early as the turn of the century, and many accounts of white cowboys' lives refer to black workmen, except for a few isolated articles. However, mainstream scholarly journals for decades bore no evidence that historians were aware of this aspect of Western history. Not only were black cowboys ignored, black soldiers, ranchers, and farmers went virtually unmentioned in the traditional academic literature. This gap in historical knowledge also shows up in the narrative of Nob. Even though Haywood Sr. has years of experience in his field, the Haywood family business has to mythologize the existence of the black jockey from Muybridge's clip in their family tree as a way to get a leg up in the industry.
I sort of give Haywood Sr. a little bit of space, even from me, to not quite know if that's true or not. But the point is, it doesn't matter, because I think the soul of the film is about a representation in itself.
Keith David's cameo as Haywood Sr. provides ample symbolism for the under-recognition of black excellence. With a career spanning over 4 decades and over 360 acting credits including John Carpenter's The Thing and They Live, David is perfectly cast to portray Haywood Sr., a professional animal wrangler who is killed when a nickel that jean jacket is unable to digest hits him in the eye. Sadly, this type of undervaluing is much too relevant in Hollywood to this day. The Hollywood Diversity Report for 2022 that we looked at earlier also revealed that the race and gender of a film director are strong predictors of the film's available budget. Additionally, the lack of opportunities that writers of color or female writers have in the industry ultimately leads to black female leads being the most underrepresented. While this is a deeply sad truth to consider, it is necessary in order to make space for change, not just in the future but right now.
For my 9th birthday, I was supposed to get the train jean jacket. But then Pops got some Western and jean jacket wasn't mine no more. Classic Otis Sr. I distinctly remember standing right here at this window watching y'all train my horse. My horse. Pops never looked up at me.
Whoa. Whoa.
But you did.
A focus on a sibling relationship as we see with OJ and Emerald in Nope is a rare find in a Hollywood film, as more often than not the struggles of a lead character are mirrored through their relationship with a romantic partner. In this case, however, we see how the same existing power structures and upbringing affect the siblings differently. The main physical work and financial responsibilities of the family business land on OJ's shoulders, leading Emerald to feel distanced, and in order to make something of herself, it is necessary for her to be the jack of all trades. While they do have disagreements, it is the recognition of each other's disadvantages and trust in each other's strengths that eventually leads them to victory. By centering the story around this sibling relationship, Peele not only updates the Western narrative and aesthetic by having OJ be one of the heroes of the story, but he evolves it by having a black queer woman on a motorcycle save the day.
I think that it was just such a blessing opportunity that Jordan wrote a character that allowed me to do all the things, like from drama, comedy, identity, character development, and just everything that could be. I mean, I just feel like Emerald is one of the most amazing characters I've ever played because she has so much to give. You know what I'm saying? That was the thing about Jordan. I said, this is a character that only men get to play. And I've always been like, man, I want to do stuff like what Will Smith does. You know, I want to be able to be that person that's like bring you the cool, funny comedy and kick us some ass. Like, let me get a chance. Let me in.
What Peele has constructed is a pointing to something without singular answers. He challenges the audience by playing with well-known genre tropes alongside narratives that have previously been neglected by Hollywood and asks the viewer to speculate on the true essence of Nope in their own lives. Do you continue watching as you have, or do you leave here different?
I think the vision that I see now that the film is done, the way I'm most proud in how we addressed it is really in this acknowledgement of the first actor, right? The cowboy, the jockey rather, that was in the Moy Bridge clip that no one knows. You know, what we were able to do in terms of the scope of this film and to address and to name that person, in a lot of ways, this film is the sequel to that, the sequel that was needed, the reboot of that original film, in which we acknowledge the erasure, we acknowledge the exploitation, we let it lie there, and then we go make the best crazy adventure alien movie with black people and black voices.
So, how will you frame your sequel? This program thanks you for your sustained attention. Like, comment, and subscribe to.
You'll be getting a call from my supervisor asking how my service
5 stars, Angel, 5 stars.
Thank you.